Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make s'mores granola bars, and this is what they look like. We have chocolate and marshmallows sandwiched between this wonderfully soft and chewy mixture of graham cracker crumbs, rolled oats, sugar, butter, syrup, flour. So good. So the first thing that you will need to do is to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And then you will need a 9-inch square baking pan that's 23 centimeters. And I've lined mine with foil. You could also line it like with a strip of parchment, either way. And then I like to butter the foil, or you could spray it with one of those nonstick sprays. So what I've done is I've just melted about a tablespoon, about 15 grams of butter, and then I'm using a pastry brush and just brush the bottom and the sides. I mean, you don't actually have to line your pan with either foil or parchment paper, but I find if you put the foil like this hanging over, it's very easy to lift your bars out of the pan. Plus, you have no cleanup. So that's the other advantage of that. Okay, so we don't need a mixer for this. We're just going to mix everything together and then layer it in the pan. First, we'll do the dry ingredients. So I have a large bowl. You will need 2 cups, 170 grams of rolled oats. I'm actually using the old-fashioned rolled oats. There's 2 types, old-fashioned and quick cooking. The difference between the two is just in the thickness of the oats. I like the old-fashioned because they're thicker, and that will make our granola bars nice and chewy, which is what I like. Could you use the quick cooking? Yes, you could, but of course your texture of your granola bars will be a little different than this. And then you will need a half a cup, 65 grams of all-purpose flour, plain flour. I do like to add, and this is entirely optional, a quarter of a cup, 25 grams of dried coconut. You can use sweetened or unsweetened, shredded or flaked. Or I know there's a lot of people out there that do not like dried coconut, so you can just leave it out. You don't need to change the recipe other than that. And then I'm adding half a teaspoon, 2 grams of salt. And I like to just add, this is another one of those entirely optional ingredients, just a pinch, 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. I just like a little bit of cinnamon flavor. But like I said, you can leave it out. And then of course, s'mores, if you ever had one, are typically 2 graham crackers, and then you sandwich the chocolate and the marshmallows in between. So of course, if we're going to make s'more granola bars, we need graham cracker crumbs. So you will need 1 cup, which is 100 grams of graham cracker crumbs. Now, you can buy them, graham cracker crumbs. I don't know why. I don't think they taste as good as if you take the graham crackers and crush them. I don't know. They don't taste the same to me. I like it better doing this. If you are using because I'm going to give you an alternative, graham crackers, you will need 6.5 of these graham crackers. Just as a side note, if you want to make your own graham crackers, you can go to the joybaking.com website or our YouTube channel, and I actually have a recipe how to make your own graham crackers. If you live outside, of say the States or Canada, sometimes graham crackers are very hard to find or they're very expensive. So an alternative is you can crush digestive biscuits. Actually, maybe I shouldn't say, but I prefer the digestive. I like the taste better than a graham cracker. So you can use that. Again, 1 cup, 100 grams, which would be 7 of the digestive cookies. So I am going to use, don't tell anybody, I'm going to use the digestive. So crush them. You could just put them in your food processor if you want to do that, or I just take a bag. I just kind of break them up a little, and then I take a rolling pin. It's going to get a little noisy here, and I just bang it until they're crushed. good. You can roll it too. Kind of get your frustrations out. Okay, I think that's good. So, just gonna dump that right in here. And then just mix it all together. So now what we need something, our liquid ingredients to bind all that together. So you will need a medium-sized saucepan, 6 tablespoons, 85 grams of butter. I'm using unsalted butter. 1, I like the flavor, and 2, that way I can control the amount of salt in the recipe. But if all you have is salted butter, or that's what you prefer using, that's fine. Just don't put that half a teaspoon, 2 grams of salt that I put in there. You won't need it because there's enough salt in the butter. So just put that in there. I just cut it into chunks there so it will melt faster. And then for a little sugar, I'm adding 3 tablespoons, which is 40 grams of light brown sugar. I'm not adding a lot of sugar because we have the marshmallows. And then we also have some syrup. So I'm not using too much of the brown sugar. Then you will need 1/3 cup, 80 milliliters of syrup. Now, you've got some options here. You could use golden syrup. You could use agave syrup, brown rice syrup, maple syrup. You could use even light corn syrup. That's not my preference, but if that's all you have, that'd be fine. So 1 of those, and just put that in there. It's going to give us the sweetness. And depending on what type of syrup, of course, your granola bars will take on that flavor. And when I measure out syrup, so anything that's sticky, I take my measuring cup and I either lightly oil the inside of the cup or spray it with one of those non-stick sprays. And that way you can see it kind of pours out easier. If you don't do that, it tends to stick. So now I'm just going to put that over medium heat, and I'm just going to let the butter melt and the sugar melt, and then we're done. Okay, so my butter is melted and my sugar, as you can see. Get that off the heat, turn that off, and then we're just going to pour it over here, over our dry ingredients, and mix everything together. These are so easy to make. Kids love them, For snacks, you can put them in their lunch box, and they last a long time. Probably about a week, I find. So, nice do-ahead thing. And then we're just going to mix everything together. You want to make sure all the dry ingredients are moistened. There, that looks good. So now what we're going to do is put a little more than half of this on the bottom because we're going to layer. For those with the scale, of course, I always recommend having a scale. I would take about 300 grams. Or you can just eyeball a little more than half. Okay. And then we will dump that in there. And so what you're looking for, if you don't weigh it, is just, you want a layer of your mixture. So actually, I think I'm going to put a little more in there. And then you could just use your hands or the back of a spoon. Just spread that out, kind of compact it down. If you find this really sticky, what you could do is just wet your hands a little, and which is what I'm going to do. Excuse me, get the tap here. I have the dog right at my feet, so I had to step over her. Okay, that looks good. So now we have the good part, the chocolate chips and the marshmallows. So first I'm going to put the chocolate chips, 1 cup, which is 170 grams of chocolate chips. Now I'm using bittersweet. You could use semi-sweet, you could use milk, you could use white chocolate, or you could even use a combination of those. Maybe you want the dark, the bittersweet, and some white chocolate chips. Whatever you like. And you know, you could even take a chocolate bar and cut it up. Okay, that looks good. Spread it out. Oh, another thing. If when you patted that down, if your mixture was really hot, like if you let this heat up too much, then what you want to do is just let it cool down a little before you put on the chocolate chips. And then what you will need is 1.5 cups, which is 90 grams of miniature marshmallows. I'm using store-bought miniature marshmallows. You could go to the joyofbaking.com website, and I do have a recipe for homemade marshmallows, and then you can make them and then just cut them into little pieces. So did I say 1.5 cups, which is 90 grams of miniature. And when you buy marshmallows, check the expiry date, because sometimes, you know, the grocery store might leave them like on the shelf a little late, and then they're kind of, when they get to like almost to the expiry date, I find they get like sticky and kind of hard. So always do that. Learn from my mistakes, because I have opened up a bag once I got it home and go, these aren't very good. So once you do that, I'm just going to pat that down. And then we've got the rest of our mixture. And I'm just going to, just in clumps. Get it all out. Okay. So once you have it pretty even, then again, just gently compress, like so. And now, baking. Baking, the length of time you bake is very important. It will determine the texture of our granola bars. So really, 15 minutes is what I find. Just you get a little color, but they're still, the oat mixture is still going to look really soft. Because what happens is we're going to take them out of the oven and we're going to let them sit. And as they cool down, they're going to firm up. So, you know, I like mine soft and chewy. The longer you bake your granola bars, the more firm they're going to be. So I'm going to say 15 minutes. I do like to rotate my pan front to back about halfway to get even baking. Okay, so our s'more granola bars are done. So put your pan on a wire rack. As you can see, it's a light golden brown, but it's still, if I touch it, it's really soft. And that's the way you want them to be. Because as they cool down, once after an hour or two, they're going to really firm up. But we want to cut them while they're still warm, otherwise it gets a little hard to do that. So what I'm going to do is let them cool maybe 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and cut them into the bars. So I let them cool about 15 minutes. They're still a little warm. So take a sharp knife. Now, as always, you can cut these any size, any shape you want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 6 rows across here and then 3 down. So then I'm going to get 18 bars. So just cut through, and then your knife's going to be kind of chocolatey, so I like to clean it off. And then just keep cutting through. And then, like I said, 6, and then I'm going to go 3 that way. And then once you do that, what we're going to do is just let these sit until they cool right down to room temperature and firm up. And then we can get them out of the pan. That's usually, leave them an hour or 2 until they're nice and firm, however long that takes. So, and then when we come back, we will try one. So it's been over an hour. So our granola bars, nice and firm. So we are ready. So I'll just... So, there we have it. See the chocolate? Lots of chocolate. Because I only let them bake like that 15 minutes, they're wonderfully soft and chewy, just how I like them. You like yours firmer, like you can tell these are quite soft. You can bake them just, a minute or 2 longer. They will continue to firm up as they cool, but they're really good. You got the rolled, I like the combination of the oats with your either graham cracker crumbs or your crushed digestive biscuits. Little hint of cinnamon, I like that. And then the oat, the coconut. And then of course you got the sweetness of the marshmallows and the chocolate. I mean, I really like this bar. They kind of look like granola bars that you buy. You can cover and store them. I find up to a week, maybe a little longer if you store them in the fridge. But a really great snack for the kids or yourself. So try these. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.